So guys, welcome back to RBR and welcome to my technical domain. This domain is my technical canvas, a place where I can show you anything that you want to see, whether that might be the past, the future, or the truth. And it's a domain just powered by me and by you, the viewer. No big corporate backing, no big budget, no massive filming crew, just you, me, and the car. So we're going to remove the noise before we race. There's a lot of skepticism around this as Porsche's main product goes electric. In the 90s, believe it or not, Porsche was a brand that was struggling to stay alive. Aging production methods saw them scrambling new ideas from Japan how to produce cars more efficiently, and they just made the Boxster to put aside the 911 to help boost sales. However, the two sports cars simply weren't enough to keep this brand afloat. A third Porsche was needed, and that came in the form of something called Project Colorado. Now, Project Colorado was started by both Porsche and VW Group and eventually turned into the first ever Porsche Cayenne. And now, skip forward all these years, it is a cornerstone of the brand, well over 1 million sold. In fact, just in 2024, it was their best-selling car across the entire lineup. And now we have, well, the third Porsche of the electric range, and that is again a Cayenne. This is the Cayenne Electric. And the Cayenne again arrives at a crucial turning point where Porsche are looking at their lineup and considering how it should change in a rapidly changing world. Now, some may dismiss this electric Cayenne as just another EV, but the changes under the skin tell a different story. And it is also, as a fact, the most powerful Porsche ever. So we are going to give it the respect that it deserves and delve in deeper into it. So we'll check out all of those details. There is a vastly changed interior to have a look at as well. A hidden V8 mode that you absolutely need to hear. And I'm going to be completely honest with you on the exterior design. So join me, guys, as we dive into this brand new Cayenne Electric. So today's episode of RBR is once again sponsored by NordVPN. Now, a lot of phones and devices have inbuilt VPNs now, but the control that Nord has always given us, like choosing your region, which for me has been brilliant because when I've been abroad and I want to access my UK Crunchyroll or Netflix library or watch history, then it's easy to do. And it gives me peace of mind when using public Wi-Fi, protecting my data, my cards, etc., etc. So it's great as a VPN. But one product these guys have done recently that has been game-changing for things other than VPN is this thing called threat protection. Now, this is something you can turn on without turning on the VPN. And what Nord essentially wanted to do was make your internet browsing experience like it used to be back in the good old days when you didn't have these horrible websites with malicious ads you can't get rid of, and these websites that would track you and make a profile about you. Tell me if this hasn't happened to you. Like, I was searching for coffee machines, and for the next 20 days, all you see everywhere is coffee machine ads. And it's really annoying. Threat protection puts an end to all of that. It puts an end to the profiling. It gets rid of the malicious malware on these websites. Heck, it will even scan files you download for you to make sure they are safe for extra peace of mind. It's also really easy to turn on. Let me show you how to do it. It's within the NordVPN app itself. All you do, you go into the app. You don't need to turn on the VPN if you don't want to. You hit this shield button here, and then you've got threat protection, knock it on, and that is it. It can be turned on independently of your VPN. So there you go, so easy. And then you've got a much more peaceful internet browsing experience. And if you turn on the VPN, even better, because you've got that much more protection. Now, of course, as an RBR viewer, I've got you a great deal. Use the link below and go to NordVPN/RBR. And on a 2-year plan, you'll get 4 months extra free. And for peace of mind, you got Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So well worth trying it. So that's nordvpn.com/RBR. And you'll just have a more peaceful browsing experience. Guys, a huge thanks to you guys for always supporting our amazing regular sponsors. Now, let's get back to the car. So guys, new Cayenne. Some people are excited, some people are completely repulsed. That is the state of our car market at the moment. But we're going to remove the emotion and we are just going to look at the facts for now. And we're going to start with design. First of all, this looks quite similar to the Macan, thanks to the shape of the bonnet, the lights, position, etc. And actually quite similar to Taycan as well. So a very strong electric Porsche DNA flowing through all three of these cars, which is nice. It's good that they are immediately recognizable. But although it's similar to Macan, I would say that it's actually very different, particularly in the details around this, and the details are important. And the actual silhouette, this is very Cayenne, the silhouette. And I think you see a lot of that ICE Cayenne silhouette in there. And it looks like that car from the side directly, I think. In fact, you put some traditional air intakes, radiators, etc. on the front of this, and that is a Cayenne ICE, right? Speaking of our ICE car, this car has a longer wheelbase of around about 13 centimeters, which will give more space on the inside, and it's slightly longer, which I think you guys can see. They're similar, but as always, there's a bit more mid-bulk to the EV, which is hidden well with the black detailing that we'll look at later. But as an EV, this has got a aerodynamic CD value of 0.25, which is bloody impressive for a car of this size. Now, we have two versions to start with. We have our turbo, which we're lucky enough to have in front of us today. I'm, by the way, in Porsche Centre High Wycombe, who have given me a night in the museum situation to bring this to you guys, so a huge thanks to them. And the other Cayenne we have is the standard base level Cayenne, which is going to be the most attractive for most buyers. So we're going to talk about both of these. And the first thing we're going to do is have a look at the design of this car a bit closer up. Okay guys, now let's have a look at this design a bit more closer up. In person, I was actually super impressed by the overall look of this. This is of course our turbo, so it's pretty much the best that this car is going to look at any point at the moment. So if we start with our front, of course we've got that closed front with the slimmer headlights as we've seen. So we've got our HD matrix ones in here, or you can have the standard ones which look very similar. You come down below, we've got the vertical air intakes, which again behind there we've got active air curtains, and we've got the active aerodynamics down below. So these are active cooling shutters that open only when thermal management demands it. Again, very Porsche looking down there. But the rest of this, very reminiscent to Taycan, to Macan. We've got a Taycan there in a similar type of shade, and you can see definitely part of that same family, but not dissimilar as well to our Cayenne. This is a beautiful paint shade. I absolutely love this green. Really shows off this car very well. And of course you can see the turbo specific elements with our front end here. Don't forget Porsche's use of now Turbonite, which is the new color for all the turbo cars. And I think we all really like it now, don't we? This 3/4 view with the massive wheels, I really love. Look at the front splitter there, which is similar to the one you get, especially the Sports Design Package 1. It's got some really nice angles to it. Yeah, this is a good looking, I don't think the front end really polarizes anybody as much as it is the rear, which of course I said I'll be completely honest about, and we'll get onto that in a second. Then the side, which I think to me, unmistakable Cayenne side, right? That roof line, the general silhouette of that car looks great. The wheels look great. You see the arches being painted in the darker gloss black color here in the turbo work. Standard car, of course, they're grayer, but also still help break up that bulk. Speaking of break up bulk, this lower side sill does that a lot. On here you can see we've got the turbo badge. You've got this kind of angle that comes up with that you don't see in Macan or any other Porsche like Taycan, and it all works really well. The wheels go from 19 to 22. These are gorgeous. Look at this finish. Absolutely lovely. And even that angle, that shot of the rear, I absolutely love this part of the car. It gets more problematic when you start going around that side. And of course on the turbo, your Turbonite finishes on our windowsills that you can see here, the electric badge as well, and indeed around our wheel finish, which is lovely. Door handles I've seen an all new redesign as well. They are more flush, they are more flat. And finally, our charging port here, like the Taycan, electrically operated. So you have two, one on this side and then one on our other side as well, which is the fast charger. Then of course our rear, which becomes a more problematic exercise in terms of design. This, I think, is what has polarized more people with this car. And I understand it. I'm going to show you a few more things to do with the rear. First, let's break down what has happened here. It is the fact that our light bar connects to our rear window. And I also think it's the fact that it's quite square. You can see that kind of squareness of it, rather than being traditionally smooth and round like a Porsche one would be. The graphic inside is not quite traditional Porsche, is it? Not in terms of the way that the light design is done, not in terms of the way the Porsche logo is lighted. It is undoubtedly set apart from the other cars. In person, actually doesn't look that bad. But like I said, I'll get back to that. This is the turbo, so it's got a massive rear diffuser that is painted. No need for exhausts, and of course that helps make the rear quite interesting. You see with that direct rear shot, you see the black element there breaking up the bodywork, but then you also got the body color at the bottom in the diffuser, which is massive, and then the party trick for the turbo hides within here. So these are Porsche's active rear aero blades that extend the lateral tear-off edges and improve aero range and stability at higher speeds, but more than that, it just looks incredible when it's all happening. Now in terms of the rear, I said I'd be honest with you, I've seen all your comments online, I made some comments as well. I hear you saying, well, it looks like a Vauxhall Garland. The more apt one to me is also the Polestar 3. And I think the reason for that is that they linked the Porsche light bar for the first time to our rear window. And it's also very square, like we said, very square type light bar rather than a smooth round one. So all of that was bound to polarize us, right? And I get that, and I agree with you. My issue with this whole thing is this. We are the same people who say Porsche don't take enough risks when it comes to car design. They've taken a risk here. In person, it's quite beautiful. It's not traditionally Porsche, and I totally agree with you. And I hate the comments saying, oh, it looks Hyundai and Kia-like. To me, that is a compliment, because those are some of the best designed new cars in the world, in my opinion. But allow Porsche to take some risks. What if they bring this into a future sports car, and you have that same link between the bar and the rear window, or in Panamera or Taycan? It might work, and I think it might be something that endears us to this car versus the ICE ones. So too early to say that this was a wrong decision, particularly when there's so much other nice things going around in terms of the design. Now let's talk about the boot and practicality. 781 litres inside here without having folded it down. Now the other party trick for our EV Porsches, check that out, a lovely 80-litre frunk, which of course will make it that much more practical for use versus the ICE car. That's useful, charging cables, other bags that you use frequently. So easy to operate as well now with the key. So that's very, very useful. So guys, that's the design, and we'll get onto interior in a second because that requires a bit more time. I want to now dive a bit under the skin. Now, our Cayenne sits on the PPE platform, much like the Macan. So it's an 800-volt platform. But don't think of this as merely a scaled-up Macan, because Porsche have really thrown the kitchen sink at the Cayenne, and this is the most advanced application of PPE platform so far. Now let's start with the heart of any EV, which is of course the battery pack. Now the underfloor has been completely redesigned for an all-new battery pack that's been co-developed with LG. And while this battery pack is similar in its structure to the new Taycan, it's actually quite different as well. Rather than 12 modules, we've got 6 modules in here that are cooled from both below and above. And this dual cooling method is particularly important for our turbo with over 1,000 horsepower in some situations, to be able to have that thermal management to deliver that power. Now, our cells are pouch type cells of a NCMA chemistry, again similar to what we saw in new Taycan, but also adding nickel, manganese, cobalt and aluminium into the mix. And overall, this is one of the biggest EV batteries that I've yet reviewed. So we've got 113 kilowatt and 108 usable within there, which is huge. And out of that, we get range in our base model of just under 400 miles on WLTP. Even if you cut that by 20–25%, that is still pretty damn impressive for such a large car. Porsche say that 97% of braking scenarios can be handled by the regen, which again is insane. And then charging performance is fantastic as well. If you're lucky enough to use this at a 390 kilowatt 800 volt charger, which of course are rare at the moment, you can go to 10 to 80% in just 16 minutes, which is crazy. But if you're at even a normal 150 kilowatt charger with the dual battery charging here, you will still get from 10 to 80 in 26 minutes. And again, in such a big battery, that's pretty cool. But what if you want to charge without plugging this car in at all? Porsche now offer a wireless charging system in the Cayenne of up to 11 kilowatts. It's really simple to use. You just drive up to the plate, the car automatically picks up where it is. It will even lower the car to reduce the air gap between the car and the plate. And then, like I said, it will start charging without any wires, without any plugging in, just like your smartphone, just like your devices. And Porsche say there's a 90% efficiency rate on this, which again is huge. And 11 kilowatt is not slow. I only get like 6 at home. That's like almost double what I get from plugging in your typical electric charger at home. So that's super impressive. And the other great thing that in the UK and in Europe, that comes standard in every single Cayenne. They are pre-prepped for that. Whenever that rollout eventually happens, your Cayenne will be ready for it. Next, of course, are motors, the final most important thing. And these cars are both all-wheel drive in both versions. So we have PSM motors on both the front and the rear. The front has a 350 amp one, rear 480. And this asymmetric inverter lineup essentially allows the car to feel more rear-wheel drive, as a Porsche should. The rear motor is oil-cooled, which is especially important for our turbo and producing that crazy amount of power. Then we come to suspension, which of course super important for a Porsche, and we have air suspension and PASM as standard in every Cayenne. That means it will be great in terms of comfort and great in terms of dynamic, being able to adapt to the road ahead. Porsche haven't disclosed what type of dampers are in here though, and what type of air springs. So I don't know if it's the dual valve damper system that we saw in Panamera and Taycan. It probably is, because I think Macan had it as well, but there's no confirmation of that yet. But with the system, you can adjust ride height, etc., and it's going to be a good standard-based system. Then we have the crazy one, the best suspension that you can get in the world right now, and that's Porsche's active ride suspension, which is insane. We saw it in Panamera and Taycan. It can control individually each wheel thanks to hydraulic pumps, and thus make the car impossibly dynamic. We saw the graph that Porsche showed us for the Panamera, how it increases the breadth of ability of this car. And then the crazy things it can do physically as well. So for a big car, eliminating roll in the corners, delivering a near flat ride in comfort, like we saw the Panamera going over those bumps, or rigid for speed. And of course that dispenses the need of then hydraulic anti-roll bars, etc. So it saves some space, etc. as well. But that is the best suspension you can get in the world right now. And I think it's worth every penny. Then finally, we have Porsche's e-traction management and Porsche's e-torque vectoring control as well. And finally, you can get carbon ceramics in our turbo. So really, technically speaking, the most advanced Cayenne under the skin that they've ever really made. So what does that give us in the end? We have two models. We have our base Cayenne, which has a base figure of around about 408 PS, 0 to 60 of 4.8 seconds, and the largest range figure quoted WLTP 398, which is great. And this is going to be the best one for range at the moment in this lineup. And apparently it also tows 3.5 tons, which is pretty mega for an EV as well. Then we come to our turbo, and the figures are simply wild. Now listen to this. On overboost launch control, 1,156 PS, 1,500 Newton meters. These are insane figures. 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. I think 0 to 100 was sub 8. I mean, that is 2.5 seconds in a car that looks like this. Is crazy. And of course, they drag raced it against the 918 Spider. Now I have mixed feelings about that, okay? Because it immediately reminded me of the Europe-hating fascist and his cyber shit, drag racing a 911 while towing a 911. Mate, no one gives a shit. Piss off. And I don't think that's Porsche's intention here. Their intention is more, look how far the Cayenne has come. Look how capable it is, and look how crazy our electric cars have become now. We'd all still choose the 918. All of Porsche's team would as well. That's not the point here. It's just to show you our boy has grown up in a big way. Now let's talk pricing. And the base Cayenne, in the UK, it starts at 83K. In the USA, it's significantly more at 96, and then in Europe, it is 99,000 euros. Then our turbo, actually pretty reasonable in the UK, all things considering, 130K starting price. In the USA, it's much more expensive at, I think it was 160 plus, and then in Europe, 150-ish in terms of the euro. So actually, when you compare those figures to the ICE versions, not that far off. I thought this would be way more expensive. It's pretty much on par. Of course, on the other side, how much will it be worth later? It's hard to say. Macan hasn't suffered as much as I thought it would. It's actually, only 10–15% under list on the used market. So who knows? It might still work out really well in the used market as well. Now, speccing wise, this is a Porsche, so there's literally a billion options that you can choose from. So we start with our base car, which is 83K, but choosing a paint color that isn't black or white and a nice set of wheels will get you close to 90 pretty quickly. And then some, like the best wheels that they have, in my opinion, are locked behind having to buy the sports design package. Sports design package is actually quite attractive though, because it brings the base car much closer to the turbo in look with a different front splitter. The arches change. You get a body colored rear diffuser, which looks really quite aggressive as well. So could be money well spent. I went and spec'd a base car because I wanted to see where we could get one, with a sensible spec, like what I would call bare minimum. I've listed it here with the code if you want to check it out. And that came just to around about 90K. And again, comparing that price to, we have a Cayenne Black Edition over here, it's not that far off the ICE version at all. Now let's talk future strategy for Porsche a bit before we move on. First of all, there is another variant of this that has already been spotted in spy shots, and that is the coupe. So expect a coupe to be coming. Of course, it was such a great seller in the ICE version. Why wouldn't they make it here? But if the EV isn't to your taste, what do you do? As I reported in my last Macan video, which I really hope that you have a watch because it's very detailed, we spoke about how Porsche are now spending billions on course correction, admitting that, look, we weren't right, but we are going to fix this. And part of that is renewing their commitment to ICE and hybrid powertrains as well. And the Cayenne, they've openly said, look, you will be able to buy the ICE and hybrid variants long into the future as well. And we've seen spy shots of these cars going around. It's got like the active aero that we've seen introduced in the 911 on the front. Seems a bit of a mild facelift. So not like they're taking this and simply putting the same design in an ICE car. The two cars will sit apart in design as well. And I expect much of the same engine lineup as we have currently to flow into those facelifts as well. But Porsche doing the right thing, admitting that they need to course correct, and then allowing you guys to choose with the two-prong approach of either EV or ICE hybrid, depending on what you want. So guys, that is everything outside. Now the interior is the biggest leap that Porsche have made in interior systems, and their most advanced one ever. You need to check this out. So guys, check out the interior of the new Cayenne Electric. It is hugely different to the ICE Cayenne in a massive way. Just the general structure here, and hopefully next time we see it and I actually drive the car, I'll show you that with VFX, but just look at the general structure. You've got this all new flow display, which in person, it actually boggles the mind. The curvature of this display, the way, it looks so different compared to what we are used to. But we have these two different sections between the top and the bottom that I've never really seen in any other car. And it's quite impressive actually to behold. For example, we press the app button and look, you've got all your apps now coming at the bottom here. It's quite intuitive, it's quite nice to see. You still have the use of some buttons here, like the 911 style rocker switches here. You've got some of your climate control elements here, your volume rocker on this side. So there are some buttons, but generally speaking, quite the vast reduction of buttons in favor of modified digital areas that can then change depending on your usage. And actually a lot of this feels quite Mercedes, and I'll kind of get onto why I think that is, why I think that's happened. But it's an interesting structure. So we've got your flow display in the middle, we've got your 14-odd inch driver zone that changes. There's a number of different options in there that I'll show you. And you've got the optional passenger display, which is now probably more useful than it's ever been in terms of actually doing stuff on there. On top of that, you've got your vents, which sit in a really nice shape here, just underneath our Porsche Chrono clock at the top there. Again, the structure just above the driver zone, like Taycan, really interesting and not boring. And then your standard Porsche GT steering wheel here with the turbo night inside the turbo here in terms of the color and the trim. And of course, your driving mode select in here as well, which does something really interesting. There's V8 sounds in this car, which I'll show you in a second. So that's your basic structure. It's very different. There's lots of ambient lighting. You've got your ambient light bar that goes across the top there as well. And then that allows for themes. And it completely changes the look of this car, depending on what theme you're in. You go for something quite sedate without any color, and it just highlights with white ambient lighting. You can go pretty crazy with the pink stuff. You've got blue, green, and you can change all of this. And it's, you know, this is nice. This is you being able to customize your car in the way that you want to customize it and get in the mood that you want to get in. Now look, we've got mood modes in here as well, something we've never seen in a Porsche. Urban, entertainment, relaxation. I can feel my seat changing shape as well, depending on which mode that we are going into. It's really, really interesting. Now, for example, in our driver zone, as we've had previously, you can change this information to what you want to see in here. So whether that's navigation or recent trips, etc., that's all doable. You can change it to your very typical Porsche 5 circle display. You can have the 3 circle one. You can go to your assist mode, maps. So again, nicely configurable to kind of how you want the information to appear on the screen in front of you, which is great. And that paired then with your mood modes allows you to get, you know, finally some difference, some change, a bit of excitement inside the driver zone as well for Porsche. So a really good job there, I think. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is this is an Android-based system, just like the Macan, but more advanced than that one. It's got an app center in here that will allow you to download apps for your car. There's over-the-air updates available. The Porsche ID is very much ingrained in this with things like digital key and then keeping your settings for that specific driver, which again, all of these things very useful. The system is slick. For example, if we go into the car settings and you see your Cayenne up here, it's quite easy to control all the elements. It's very intuitive what's going on. It's not going to confuse anyone in that sense. For example, we go into interior, we go into the roof, you have your adaptive panoramic roof in here, very easy to use. Or maybe you want to change the ambient lighting through here instead and then choose a completely different color of your own lighting. Say we want to go for a red view, and then, you know, immediately it's changed. So very, very easy to do. Now, of course, you've got other things like plenty of storage. We've got phone charging there, which is cooled, which is great. A couple of cup holders, which are absolutely massive. This kind of slides back and forth. I'm not sure what the point of that is rather than just opening up, but it is what it is. And then essentially you can close basically this entire area here if you want to, and you get this closed center console, which actually looks pretty cool. Now here's your passenger display. Again, quite slick, really quick to react. You've got the ability to go into all of the apps in here. I think the app center is going to be useful because you'll be able to get games and do other bits and pieces in here. At the moment, you can just display extra information for the driver or the passenger, but I think you're going to see a lot more utility in this than you have in the past displays. I'm not a huge fan of them, but the way it links into the flow display here, that's cool. That's a lot cooler than it was in Taycan. So yeah, I really do like that. Now in terms of the rear, like we said, we've got a 13 centimeter longer wheelbase, so loads of space. The rear seats are electrically operated as standard as well. And then with the optional panoramic roof, loads of headspace, lots of light coming in. It's going to be a nice place for passengers to be. This is the best system that they've ever had. I would love if there was a gear selector in the middle or if there were more buttons, but you know, as a digital system from Porsche, this is deeply impressive. And like I said, all of this really reminds me a lot of Mercedes-Benz, and I don't think that that is a coincidence. Now, MBUX brought a huge change into Mercedes-Benz, and that was done in a large part by a recent hire made by Porsche, and that was Mr. Sajjad Khan. Now, I spoke to Sajjad many years ago about MBUX, and he's deeply, deeply knowledgeable about understanding how a driver interacts with software and technology, and I can see his influence all over this car in terms of the mood modes, the utility of the software. So if you're wondering how Porsche have taken such a massive leap, why it feels kind of, you know, easily as good as what you see in the Mercedes cars at the moment, I think he's got a lot of his hands within this. But this is a really great system because of that. For me, this is finally that car where I won't be able to say, look, the Porsche's great and it drives great, but really if you want the tech and the slickest interior system, then you need to go to Mercedes or BMW. It doesn't feel like that in this. This is, if anything, particularly thanks to the utility and the theatrics of the flow display, it feels kind of like it's a level above those cars. So a really great job by them on this interior, and I'm actually excited to drive it and live with it to see if that translates in real life as well. Now, I mentioned there's a party trick when it comes to the sound. I recently did a video on AMG's upcoming GT 4-door, which had V8 sounds. A lot of people reacted to that. That had gear shifting as well. And we've seen Hyundai do it with the Ioniq 5N in terms of gear shifting and simulated engine stuff. This Cayenne electric has also joined the party. Now, I am actually very pleased about this. If we go into here and we have our sport sound, you see we have two options, Sport and Sport Plus. Now, if I go into Sport Plus, we can do it from here as well. I'm sure you guys can hear that now. There is V8 sounds coming out of this Cayenne electric. Okay? Porsche have joined the party in terms of having synthetic engine sounds if you want it, right? If you want it, you can have it. Otherwise, you can go in here and choose the sport sound, which is the Porsche electric sound. But if you do want to have some of that Cayenne heritage, choose Sport Plus. You'll get the V8 sounds. There's no gear shifts, etc. at the moment. Apparently, that's something that Porsche is considering because they were deeply impressed with the Hyundai N series cars doing that. I'm a supporter of this idea that, you know, if you want to have more fun driving simulation, it could be like the ultimate video game, mimicking your great Porsche cars of the past, but in an ultra capable new car with 1000 PS. Why not? Let's have some more interest, more options. If you don't use it, don't use it. But that, to me, that's bloody cool. So guys, that's your Cayenne electric. Deeply impressive as not just an EV, but as a Porsche, with wild performance. I mean, the performance is undeniable. The charging performance and the range is great as well. And I think it reduces some of that, the barriers to entry for a lot of people who thought the Macan EV and the Taycan were too small and not practical enough. And it's also the first car in the electric series that I think shows that Porsche understand what your traditional petrol heads might want in a car like this, shown by the Sport Plus mode, shown by those V8 sounds, which is really quite interesting. But a lot of it will also depend how this thing drives, right? And I'd love to do that sooner rather than later, but we're a little bit lower down the pecking order because, like I said, RBR is a two-man team. But if you want to help me get to that goal, if you want to see reviews made for enthusiasts rather than PR managers, give this video a share it with your friends, like and subscribe to RBR, and I'll see you guys hopefully sooner rather than later.